Hello, party people. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a week of dinners. And this week I tried to make exclusively chicken recipes. Well, I didn't try. I did try and I succeeded to your benefit. Some of these recipes are really good, so I think you're going to enjoy them as much as we did. And the first recipe, we're going to kick it off with a good old Instant Pot Parmesan ranch chicken and potatoes. Did I have potatoes with this? I did not have potatoes. I've got to think back a week. It's been a while. You know my memory. Anyway, I think it's just versatile. You can make it with anything that you want. I used mashed potatoes that I had in my freezer. And right now I'm just chopping up an onion and some Brussels sprouts to eat as a side dish. But I think what makes this meal so great, because you can make it in the Instant Pot, and you can also make it in a crock pot if you don't have an Instant Pot. I certainly wouldn't buy it just for this recipe. But the benefit of doing that is you can cook two things at the same time, and it's supposed to not take that long. Oh yeah, and I'm adding bacon, because everything tastes better with bacon, especially vegetables, Brussels sprouts in particular. I mean, you guys know I like Brussels sprouts just plain as is. My family is more likely to eat them if I throw on some bacon on top. I'm just roasting them in the oven. It's my favorite way to make any vegetable, with a little oil and salt and pepper. Here we are, starting with the chicken. It says to add 1 packet of ranch seasoning, but I must have picked up like some different kind of ranch dressing seasoning, because there was barely any in the packet. So I added 2 packets. I'm going rogue. That's how I usually do. Some garlic powder right there and some Italian seasoning. So the recipe actually says to add 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1.5 teaspoons of dried thyme, half a teaspoon dried basil, half a teaspoon dried oregano. But you guys know I just do what I want in my kitchen, and I don't have all those, but I do have Italian seasoning, so that's what I used. I'm pouring it all over my chicken and rubbing it all around, making sure it's fully coated. I had some like water at the bottom. It's like no big deal, you know what I mean? We're adding chicken broth, and the instructions are very clear in stating that you must, what does it say? Try to pour it to the sides of the chicken and potatoes so that you don't rinse off the seasonings. So they're very specific about that, and I like how they added that. Otherwise, I would have just dumped that broth all over the place. I am starting to enjoy my Instant Pot. I'm starting to understand it all, kind of. I mean, I kind of just... There's no rhyme or reason. How long does chicken cook? I don't know. 16 minutes sounds good to me. I did finally figure out how to change it from like a high, medium, low pressure point. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I cooked it for all that time, and then 15 more minutes had passed. I guess that's called a natural release in the Instant Pot world. So there's our chicken. If there were a lot of potatoes on the bottom, think of how wonderful and juicy those would be as well. Wait, are potatoes juicy? Not really. Is this chicken juicy? Yes, it is. Don't know how they do it. I decided, hey, why not? Let's make a gravy, because my kids like gravy on anything. Was it the best tasting gravy? No, but my kids liked it. It was the only option that night, so they ate it. They didn't complain. I'm just adding a little bit of flour, made like a roux, little flour and water, threw it in there to make it thick. And then this is the final product, the chicken, those Brussels sprouts, nice and roasted. I put them in the oven at like 400, 425. What are you feeling? Do you have extra time? Maybe put them at 350. You know, we're just cooking. It doesn't have to be so specific. Do what you want. And I'll tell you the best part about this dish, the vegetables. Okay, moving on to cheddar baked chicken. So when I found this recipe, this is a Six Sisters recipe. I think actually all of them are. So shout out to them if you've never heard of them and their website. Oh, and by the way, most of these recipes are drenched in like cheese. So I had a lot of cheese to go through. So that's why I picked these particular recipes. Also the reviews, and in particular, one of the sisters said that this chicken recipe reminded them of like an adult version of the chicken nugget, whatever that means. But I'm going to agree with her because it was delicious. My husband and I ate so many of these, and I decided to cut my chicken up into like tender pieces, if you will, like little strips of chicken instead of whole chicken. So if you use a whole chicken and do it this way, first of all, you'd save so much time. And second of all, you would not need as much coating. I had to make like two or three batches of coating. So for the coating, you're going to need, that's what I'm mixing right now, some breadcrumbs. How much breadcrumbs? Half a cup of seasoned breadcrumbs, 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese, and then 1 cup of cornflakes crushed. So I don't measure everything exactly. I just dumped on some breadcrumbs, grabbed a handful of shredded cheese, and I didn't have cornflakes, but I did have Rice Krispie cereal, and that worked out just fine. So you're going to coat the bottom of the pan with half a cup of butter. In all honesty, I think that's what makes this dish so delicious, the amount of butter. Like, how can it not be good? There's cheese, there's Rice Krispie cereal, breadcrumbs. Okay, so here I am. I made an assembly line, a dredging station, if you will. So I've got the chicken, I've got the seasoned flour. I think I seasoned it with garlic powder and maybe salt and pepper. Probably more just pepper. And then some eggs. You're supposed to add a splash of milk. It says 1 tablespoon of milk, but I added half and half because that's what I had. I didn't have any milk. You use what you have. That's what I want you to take away from this. Even if a recipe says, oh, you need this. Well, do you need it, or is it just a suggestion? Because that's how I follow recipes. That's just a guideline. Okay? It's nothing serious. You're just making food. And if it doesn't come out good, guess what? You can attempt it again the next day because you're going to be hungry tomorrow too. So everything's going to work out just fine in the kitchen. That's my take on it. Eleanor has been helping me a lot in the kitchen. She is my number 1 helper in the kitchen. So she's helping me dredge all that up. And it actually filled up 2 pans. So I did put butter in the other pan as well. And guess what? More butter. That's right. It says to put it into dabs and dab it on top. But I thought, you know what? I saw this trick when I was watching Food Network on my sick bed a while ago when I was HG pregnancy. So you put a stick of butter in the freezer. I just threw it in there for 10 minutes to make it extra hard. This is hard butter anyway. And I used a little grater, and I thought, this is such a cool trick. And I felt so cool in the kitchen. And then I let Eleanor take a spin on it because it was just so much fun. Sometimes you just got to switch it up in the kitchen and make it fun. Okay. So what do we do once that's coated with butter? I think oh my gosh, maybe this is why it tasted so good. Half a cup of butter divided. I think I put half a cup on the bottom and then another half a cup on top. But yeah, so I definitely used too much butter, but it tasted good. Are my arteries clogged? Probably, but we'll deal with that in another time. A side dish for this meal. Okay, hold on. Backing up, I threw that in an oven, 350 degrees. It says to bake for 35 minutes or until chicken is cooked through. And I had smaller pieces. I still cooked it for around 35 minutes, and it came out just fine. So have I told you yet have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you lately did I tell you already that this meal, if you make nothing else from this video, you go ahead and make this meal. You will not be disappointed. Okay, I'm making the side dish, and I realized I'm dancing around singing to myself. Kim, you're such an idiot. You chopped the onion the wrong way. Whatever. I meant to chop it into big pieces because I don't want the onions to burn while the carrots are still raw. You know what I mean? So I'm throwing that in the oven. Guys, like I said, I make roasted veggies every night for dinner almost, especially if the oven is on for, something else, the protein. A little bit of oil, a little bit of salt, pepper, whatever seasonings that you like. That's just my trio. And in the oven at, what was it at this time? 350, and I just left them in there as long as the chicken was in there, 30 minutes or so. Here is the finished product. Oh, extra bubbly with all that butter. Oh, and I had this Spanish style rice to serve next to it because it was part of our hurricane stash, and I'm glad that I had it because I was completely out of rice. Okay, moving on to creamy chicken broccoli casserole recipe. All right. Started again in the Instant Pot. I basically use my Instant Pot to cook chicken from frozen because it only takes, I'm using air quotes, 20 minutes. It only takes 20 minutes, but it really takes around 40, maybe an hour, depending on how many pieces you're cooking. So I threw that in the Instant Pot. We're going to chop it up. And here I am making the like sauce, if you will. So you need 2 cups of milk. Again, I did not have milk. I had almond milk that I used a cup of, and then half and half that I used a cup of. 2 sticks of cream cheese. How I managed to get my hands on some cream cheese, I'll never know. 2 teaspoons of garlic, salt. I just used garlic powder because that's what I had. And then 3/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Didn't really measure it, just used my hand as a guide. My palm, a palmful and a half. Or I used 3 palmfuls. I don't really know. Guy, just listen to your heart when you're in the kitchen. Listen to your heart. Okay, so I got the chicken out of the Instant Pot. It was well done. Really like this chicken that I got from Costco in the frozen bag. I'm digging it. I'm probably going to buy it from now on. And I'm just chopping it into cubes. You can shred it if you want to. Oh my gosh, and can I say this sauce, even though the only seasoning, I used this like garlic seasoning that someone sent me. It's from Tastefully something. Simply to, I don't even know. I showed you, I hope. But what was I saying about that? Oh, that was the only seasoning. This sauce is so good, you could dump it over noodles. Your kids are going to love it. You don't have to make this casserole. It tastes like Alfredo sauce. It's so good. I don't know if it was the half and half that made it good. Maybe if you have whole milk, it'll taste the same. Because, again, I used almond milk. And I thought, oh, I'm going to thin it out with all my almond milk. Okay, so you use a package of broccoli, 16 ounces of broccoli, or however much you want. I would double up on it next time. I really like broccoli. Put a cup of the sauce. As you can see, I put more than a cup. Who cares? And then you throw the chicken on top and then dump the rest of the sauce on top of that. We're assembling this. And then you need a sleeve of Ritz crackers. I didn't have Ritz crackers. I had the buttery, Toll House, I think, crackers. So I just crumbled that up. And then you need how much more cream, Parmesan cheese? A 1/4 cup. A half a palmful. I probably still use 2 palmfuls. Put that on top. And, oh, wait, I got to finish. Look at this. Let me add it in. I forgot to add it in, but look at those bubbles. Hold on. Let me add the clip. Finished product. Here we go. I'm glad you reminded me to add this. I almost forgot. Look at that broccoli, the creaminess of the sauce. It kind of solidifies. Oh gosh, it tastes so good. It was a crowd pleaser. I'll tell you that. I wasn't sure about it because there wasn't any starch. There was no rice I had to add. A lot of the recipes that I saw for that broccoli casserole had some kind of rice or anything. Anyway, it was good is what I'm saying. So if your kids like casseroles, you go ahead and make that for them. This was also another crowd pleaser that surprised me. The creamy buffalo chicken casserole. We're moving on. I'm shredding some chicken. I like how I shred chicken. I usually shred chicken in my KitchenAid. So I know some of you are going to suggest that. Yes, I know that trick, but I didn't want to wash another dish. So, well, I guess I could have mixed everything in the KitchenAid bowl. Moving on, that's what I did because it's so easy to shred. You don't have to do much when you pull it out of the Instant Pot. But still, is the Instant Pot worth it? I'm still on the fence about it. Okay, so it says to add a half a cup of buffalo sauce. And did you see my huge thing of Frank's Red hot sauce? That was like industrial size. We're going too fast. Okay, I added way more than a half a cup because you know how I do, guys. And then it says 3/4 cup plain Greek yogurt. Well, I didn't have any, so I added some sour cream. Half a cup of ranch dressing. I measured with my heart. Half a cup of cream of chicken soup. What am I going to do with the rest of the can? I'm trying to find a recipe. Half a teaspoon of garlic salt. Half a teaspoon of paprika. And then you mix that all together. Oh, creamy and delicious. Grab that casserole dish. It's freshly washed. Did I dry it? No, because who cares? I sprayed Pam down. I don't know if that's going to make a difference since it's sopping wet. I'm spreading that evenly out. And then on top, I'm going to top it with, what do I have here? What is that? Breadcrumbs? Okay, so I'm putting the breadcrumbs on first. It is a half a cup of Italian breadcrumbs. If you don't have that, like, I don't know, throw some bread or croutons or anything you have in your pantry in a food processor or in a Ziploc bag or something. And then it says to throw 1.5 cups mozzarella cheese on top. I don't think I added that much cheese, but I just topped it with mozzarella cheese. Look at that burnt spot. Even with it being burned. Oh my gosh, it still came out great. So you're supposed to cook it for 20 to 25 minutes at 350 degrees, and then you're supposed to pop it on the broiler for 2 minutes. Well, I popped the broiler on and left it. That's why it got a little crispy. But guess what? It was still so delicious. My daughter really likes this wrapped up in a tortilla. The rest of us just ate it with the rice. And those of us who didn't like it ate the rice. Okay, moving on with some crispy honey mustard chicken. Okay, let me just get to the recipe first. I'm adding 3/4 cup of light honey mustard dressing. I had this left over from like a freezer meal that I did, the freezer meal sliders, which are fantastic, by the way. If you have honey mustard, just plain honey mustard, I would totally do that. And you can make your own honey mustard with, I think it's equal parts honey, mayonnaise, and mustard, like Dijon mustard, Grey Poupon. Whatever mustard you have, just try it out and see if you like it. I think it's supposed to be Dijon. It sounds so weird when I say it. That's a word I don't say very often. Okay. I would double up on that. Again, I cut my chicken into pieces, so I needed like more of a coating. Do you know what I mean? I think I went through half a bag of this. What cereal is that? The cornflakes? I went through half a bag. I ended up going to the store the day before I made this recipe, so I bought some cornflakes. But I went through half a box, probably more than half a box, almost the entire box, which I'm kind of thankful for because, what else am I going to do with cornflakes? I'm surely not going to eat them. I mean, now I have to eat the rest of the box. I'm not going to let it go bad. Okay, moving on. So that's all you need. It's such a simple, only takes a few recipes. If you don't like honey mustard, maybe use something else. Ranch dressing. The flavor isn't super crazy, but again, if I make this again, I will make sure to coat it more with the honey mustard. And then you cook that at 425, so high, because we want to keep it crispy, in a pan, 9x13. I made a bit more. And you cook it for 25 to 30 minutes. And then you're supposed to drizzle the remaining dressing. So a 1/3 cup of dressing. These measurements, guys. I mean, drizzle however much you want on top of it. Serve it with ketchup if your kids don't like mustard. But that is all the recipes. I served it with, I think we had a salad that day, one of my favorite salads. I didn't record because I thought, you guys have seen me make the salad. You guys have seen me roast a ton of vegetables. So I'm just I didn't want this video to be 40 minutes long. I just wanted to share with you the bulk of the recipes. But that is it. I hope you try some of these recipes. And if you do, make sure to share them with me. I always get a kick out of when you guys make the recipes that I share. Especially if you love them. Only if you love them. But thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out. I hope I shared some good ones with you today. And I'll see you next time. Oh, subscribe if you want to put a little happy in your day. Bye.